Welcome back, everyone. Now we're going to resume reading the Sutta as we find out whether our friends Anuruddha and his friends have been able to achieve any superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision. Thank you, Ajahn Brahmali.
Okay.
You were left in a cliffhanger.
Right, exactly. Oh, this is... I've learned this from television. You always leave people on the cliffhanger, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the way to go. Okay. So this is how they practice in a very simple way. And then the Buddha asked them, well, have you achieved any of these things? And these are the standard way of talking about the jhanas and the Aryan state, the Uttarimanusa Dhammas. So this is a reference to the stream entry and arahantship and the jhanas. This is what this specifically is about. So have you achieved any of these things, right? Based on what we have seen so far, very simple ideas of kindness and good conduct. And so that's kind of beautiful to think of how simple the path really is. But of course, we have to do these things fully and completely, and only then do they really bear these profound results as a consequence. And this is what they say. This is what Anuruddha replies. He says, well, sir, while meditating heedful, keen, and resolute, we perceive both light and vision of forms. But before long, the light and vision of forms vanish, and we haven't worked out the reason for that. So lights and vision of forms, this is what is normally called like samadhi nimitta in modern terms, yeah? A samadhi nimitta is something that has a certain shape usually, and it is a light, it's something brilliant in the mind, and often it comes like as a circle or a disc or something like that. Can also be a bit more dispersed, it comes in a variety of ways, but it has some kind of shape and it is some kind of brilliance. And the simpler the shape is, the more brilliant that light is, the more powerful it is, and the deeper is the kind of samadhi. That's the general sort of idea. And it is always conjoined with bliss, right? This is what I was saying before. You measure the depth of samadhi according to the amount of bliss that is available or is actually present. And also the tranquility, the peace, is also another measurement of the depth of the samadhi. These are like the two main things to look for. So have you... so this is what they have achieved, yeah? So just to make it clear again, superhuman qualities, I would translate this, prefer a slightly different translation from Bhante Sujato, but it's roughly the same. Distinction and knowledge and vision, word of the noble ones, meditation at ease, these are all synonymous, and they refer to kind of the highest parts of the Buddhist path. So we haven't worked out the reason why they vanish. And then the Buddha says, well, you should work out the reason for that. Everything is conditioned, everything is caused according to the Buddhist teachings. So we should always look for the causes of things, and then we can understand how things are built up, how they're kind of part of a web of causality, if you wish. And then we come to, again, this idea for why I have included this sutta on this retreat, because the Buddha says, before my awakening, when I was unawakened but intent on awakening, so again we are back to the time before the Buddha became the Buddha to be, I too perceived both lights and vision of forms. But before long, my light and vision of forms vanished. Yeah, so both the Buddha and also, of course, his disciples Anuruddha, Kimbala, Anandya, they're having problems with stabilizing their samadhi. Yeah, and this is what I was saying before, is that when we are having troubles in our meditation, we are in very, very good company. We're in the highest kind of company imaginable, basically. So if you're having troubles, no wonder you're having troubles. If the Buddha himself had troubles, then you can imagine why this is not obvious, why we should be able to do this. So again, it's really worthwhile, and it's very encouraging, isn't it? It means that we don't have to feel bad because our meditation is not going so well. It doesn't mean feel bad if it has gone well in the past, but now it is not going so good. What we have to do is look for the causes. That is the right approach, and not worry too much about the fact that it is not there. It occurred to me, what is the cause? What is the reason? Why my light and vision of forms vanished. And then the Buddha, of course, Buddha to be, very systematic in his approach. It occurred to me, doubt arose in me, and because of that my immersion fell away. Immersion here is the samadhi. The samadhi fell away, and when the samadhi falls away, the light and vision of forms vanish. I'll make sure that doubt will not arise in me again. So doubt here, vicikicca, the fifth of the five hindrances. So obviously this is precisely a hindrance because it stops you from entering samadhi. It also stops you from insight. So doubt here is always defined in the same way in the suttas. It's doubt about what are wholesome and unwholesome qualities. So it means you come to a certain point in your meditation and you don't really know anymore. You come to like a fork in the road. How do I move forward from here? What is wholesome? What is unwholesome? What are the things in the present experience I should abandon so I can move forward? What are the unwholesome, the lesser quality? What are the higher qualities? And doubt about this is what is meant here. So you can imagine that you are coming, you have maybe a light in the mind, and you wonder, wow, this is really awesome. What do I do now, right? And the moment you think, what do I do now? It's gone. Right? This is kind of how tricky the meditation is. Or you have some kind of doubt about what to do next. You don't know how to move on. And that very thought, that very doubting is going to stop you. So next time, instead of doubting, you stay with the object to see what happens. Let me just stay with it. Let me not ask any questions about what's going on. Let me just enjoy its presence rather than asking questions. Sometimes we ask too many questions. And actually sometimes we just need to be quiet and see how things evolve. And that is the right answer in the present situation. In this way, you put aside doubt. While meditating diligent, keen, or heedful, keen, and resolute, I perceive both light and vision of forms. But before long, my light and vision of forms vanished. It occurred to me, what is the cause, what is the reason why my light and vision of forms vanish? It occurred to me, loss of focus, manasikara, arose in me, and because of that, my samadhi fell away. When samadhi falls away, the light and vision of forms vanish. I'll make sure that neither doubt nor loss of focus will arise in me again. So loss of focus, manasikara, means manasikara is really like attention. You're attending to the object. So somehow your mind moves away from attending to the object. Maybe there's a sound arising in the background and you become interested in the sound or whatever. You lose your ability to focus on the samadhi nimitta, or your mind becomes interested in, instead of focusing directly on what is going on, you become focused a bit on what's happening on the edges or something like that. You lose the focus on the object. And the moment you do that, you get the sense of diversity and many things happening, and then, of course, the samadhi itself disappears. So then you make the resolution, I will not think. Thought is another kind of thing that can come in this case and be a lack of attention. So next time you make it clear to you, if there's a sound, I'm not going to worry about the sound. If there's a thought, I'm not going to follow the thought. I'm going to stay with the beautiful light. It is so powerful and beautiful anyway, might as well hang out with this light in the mind. So, then, okay. While meditating, diligent, keen and resolute, or heedful, keen and resolute, you perceive light and vision of forms, but this time dullness and drowsiness, tinamida, arose in me. And then the Buddha says, I'll make sure that this also does not arise again in the future. And dullness and drowsiness, we have to be careful here to understand what is meant by this. very often in the coarser states of mind, dullness and drowsiness are kind of very clear things. It makes you fall asleep, etc. Of course, here it doesn't make you fall asleep because you're very bright. But what it means, the energy dips a little bit in the mind. Yeah, it's a little bit more dull than it was before. It doesn't, you cannot really fall asleep straight away from these kind of states. And so there's a drop in energy here. Yeah, and you can feel that. So then what do? Well, you focus on the brightness of what is there. You focus on the energetic part, and it brings back the energy again, usually through the right kind of focus on the object. And these are the things that you will also learn through this kind of experiences yourself. By hanging out with these nimittas, you learn how to observe them in such a way as to keep them still, focused, powerful, energetic, mindfulness, etc., being established. So you stay with the bright part, you stay with the beautiful part of these things. Then, as you are meditating in this way, terror arose in me. The Pali word is chambitatta, I think. Let's see here where we are. Chambitatta, which means like trembling or fear. Terror arose in me. And because of that, the immersion falls away. When immersion falls away, the light and vision of forms vanish. Suppose a person was traveling along a road and killers were to spring out at them from both sides. They would feel terrified because of that. In the same way, terror aroused in me. It's a pretty kind of amazing simile to use at this stage, isn't it? Killers kind of spring out from both sides. How is that possible? It seems like over the top. We're kind of meditating peaceful and nice, and killers come up. But this is kind of the point, is that when we get very deep into meditation like this, it feels that some of the things that are very close to us are being threatened by the meditation experience. We are going to have to give up things that are so close to us that it's almost tantamount to being killed. We're killing off aspects of our personality that are so core to our experience. It feels like we are kind of giving up our very essence of who we are as human beings. And of course, that can be very frightening. Just like someone wants to kill you, this is a similar kind of thing. It can be frightening. So how do we deal with that? And the way to deal with that is just to gradually get used to the process. These are really beautiful experiences. There's nothing to fear. The Buddha has done it before it. All the great meditators of the world have done this before us. We know in theory there's nothing to fear. But of course, when you encounter it, then the terror tends to arise regardless. So gradually get used to it. Gradually, as you get used to it, you focus on the beautiful parts. You realize that the things that you are giving up, actually, they were dukkha anyway. All we're giving up is dukkha. Actually, good riddance, you realize after a while. You were afraid of giving up dukkha. That's really what you were afraid of. That's kind of interesting, isn't it, how things suddenly turn around and they become very different from what you thought they were. And so this is this idea that we just don't understand what is happening, and actually what we're giving up is dukkha. So, while meditating, excitement arose in me, and because of that, my immersion fell away. When samadhi falls away, the light and vision of forms vanish. Suppose a person was looking for an entrance to a hidden treasure, and all at once they come across 5 entrances. They feel excited because of that. In the same way, excitement arose in me. This is a common thing for meditators. When you start to get a little bit deeper, you get excited about what is going on, because these things are really exciting. They're really interesting. You're about to experience the greatest bliss you have ever experienced in your life by a magnitude of a lot. Of course, it's going to tend to be exciting. The idea of 5 entrances here, I'm not entirely sure what that means. It may mean the 5 kinds of jhanas. There is the 4 jhanas plus the 1.5 jhana, 5 altogether. And there's good reasons for thinking that might be the case, because that is how the jhanas are divided up later on in the sutta. So it may be a reference to that. But the idea of excitement. So how do we deal with excitement? And again, it is about getting used to these experiences, learning how that they are, learning that excitement is counterproductive. It just takes you out of it. Also remembering that experiences tend not to repeat themselves fully. So what you are excited about is not going to happen anyway, so why are you getting excited? Right? It's that kind of thinking, because actually it's going to be a slightly different experience. So I don't even know what I'm getting excited about. Yes, and so you kind of gradually let go, because you understand that actually I don't know what's going to happen next. You get used to the idea, and then you overcome gradually that excitement, and then you're able to deal with it, and you are at peace with it, just enjoying the bliss of the experience. Discomfort arose in me, and discomfort here is an dutulla, which also means coarseness of the mind. And it could be a kind of coarseness, again, maybe some sound happening, maybe the mind wanting to think something, which is coarse in this particular context. Something which is coarse compared to that beautiful state of mind. And that coarseness is also going to be uncomfortable, or a kind of discomfort. So they kind of go together. So again, you remind yourself, focus on the light, stay with that beautiful light, don't allow your mind to get distracted, don't go to the uncomfortable thing, stay with that, and then gradually you overcome that discomfort. Excessive energy arose in me, and because of that, my samadhi fell away. When the samadhi falls away, the light and vision of forms vanish. Suppose a person was to grip a quail too tightly in their hands, it would die right there. I'll make sure that none of these things arise. Excessive energy, it is almost as if you are trying a little bit too hard. You are still in control of your mind, you still have a sense of being in charge. So it's still possible to try a little bit too hard. You're focusing, using a little bit of willpower. Too much willpower, too much energy, these things kind of arising together. And because of that, the quail dies. The quail dies. The quail is your mind. You're losing the light and the vision of forms, and then it is all gone. So you relax a little bit. Instead of trying to make the experience happen, you allow it to happen instead. You stay with the light. You stay with the forms. So there's a difference between staying with the form and focusing too hard on the form, the light. It's a very kind of subtle distinction, because the moment you try to focus, it is easy to use too much effort. So that's what you want to avoid. You want to kind of stand back. It's like a sitting back effort, just being aware, staying with something without trying to make it happen. And this is always the case with meditation. Getting out of the way is really the hardest part. Allowing the process to take its own course. You are not in charge. Nature is in charge. Allow nature to take its course. Then the meditation works. It's dhammata. It is not driven by the will. Overly lax energy arose in me. Suppose a person were to grip a quail too loosely, it would fly out of their hands. So there's still a tiny bit of effort to be done, but not too little. There's still this focus needs to be done in the right way, and if you don't try even to focus, it's not going to work. Longing arose in me. So maybe you have a longing for going further. You have this idea what's going to happen next. Some kind of longing in your heart about, when is the jhana going to happen? I want jhanas. Bang, end of everything. Kind of that was the wrong move to dream about the jhanas when you had the beautiful nimittas. So longing, not a good idea. So you realize, okay, I'm just going to chill. I'm going to be happy with whatever happens is fine. I'm not going to try to make it happen faster than it can happen. If I get somewhere further, great. If I don't, that's also fine. But regardless, I'm going to be happy with whatever happens. And at this point, it's difficult not to be reasonably happy. These are really blissful states already that you're getting to here. Perception of diversity arose in me. And the idea here is that you want things to be as simple as possible in your meditation. The idea, what we're trying to do is the Chittas Ekaggata, and Chittas Ekaggata is the one-pointedness of mind, which means one singleness of perception. Yeah, Ekatta it is called in the suttas. It is mean oneness of the mind, not kind of multiplicity of the mind. So if perception becomes too diversified, it becomes problematic. What does that mean? It means that if you have like a light, you're looking at the edges of the light, you're seeing what shape does it have. Maybe there are more lights, yeah, and you're looking for diversity rather than looking for staying at the center of that experience. Only one single perception, yeah, that is what you want to focus on, not the diversity of that experience. So it's actually, it is not. There's a lot of things going on here, but the general ideas are fairly simple. And then he says, while meditating diligent or heedful, keen and resolute, I perceived both light and vision of forms. But before long, my light and vision of forms vanished. It occurred to me what is the cause and the reason why this is happening. It occurred to me excessive concentration on forms arose in me. And because of that, my immersion fell away. When the samadhi falls away, the light and vision of forms vanish. And so I shall make sure that neither doubt, nor loss of focus, nor dullness and drowsiness, nor terror, nor excitement, nor discomfort, nor excessive energy, nor overly lax energy, nor longing, nor perception of diversity, nor excessive concentration on forms will arise in me again. Excessive concentration on forms, that means that you are probably focusing more on the form, not so much on the light, but it is the light that has the power, it is the light that is beautiful, and that is what eventually will take you into samadhi. So don't worry so much about the form. Focus, let the light maybe be the main thing, with the form being the secondary characteristics of that experience. When I understood that doubt is a corruption of the mind, this is the Upakkilesa, this is the name of what the sutta is named after, I gave it up. Yeah, through this process we have been looking at now, using some of these ideas that I've been talking about. When I understood that loss of focus and all of these things are corruptions of the mind, you give them up. While meditating, diligent, keen, and resolute, I perceived light, but did not see forms. I saw forms, but did not see light. And this went on for a whole night, a whole day, a whole night and day. And I thought, what is the cause? What is the reason for this? It occurred to me, when I don't focus on the foundation of forms, but focus on the foundation of light, then I perceive light but do not see forms. But when I focus on the foundation of the light, when I don't focus on the foundation of light, but focus on the foundation of forms, then I see forms and do not perceive light. And this goes on for a whole day, a whole night, and even a whole night and day. So, the idea here is that the foundation of these things, what is the Pali word? Let's have a quick look here. Nimitta again, yeah? Nimitta is the Pali word here. This is the foundation. So it means that there are certain things that create the forms in the mind. There are certain things that create the light. So you focus on those things that give rise to these things. That's kind of the point here. Whatever is the foundation, whatever is the cause, you focus on that. And what this means, and this is kind of interesting, you will notice that the Buddha is saying that the light in itself is not really good enough. A form in itself is not really good enough. Sometimes people come and they tell you about the meditation experiences, and they will say, oh, I have all this light in the mind, but there's no form, everything is just light. Well, that is not the ideal way of meditating, according to this. The ideal way is to have both the form and the light together, yeah? Like a disk of the sun or the disk of the moon or something like that. That is the ideal. And I think the reason is simply because when you have something that has a shape, it is easier to focus on. If it is completely just white, it's harder to focus. It's difficult to know exactly how to place your focus in that kind of situation. But the clear shape is very simple to focus on. But if it is just a form without the light, then it is lacking the energy of the light, the beauty of the light, the bliss that actually is required to take you into samadhi. But when these two come together, then it becomes powerful. So what this seems to be saying is that the samadhi nimittas are actually almost like a requirement, right? This is almost what this is saying, which is interesting. We had that question before, and I said that the main markers for samadhi are stillness and bliss. That does not mean that these lights are not necessary. They may also be necessary, but it may not be the main marker because it is easy to misconceive what is going on. But it may still be required, in the right way, perceiving it in the right way, the right kind of light, the right kind of shape. Not sure if that came across very clearly, but anyway. All right. So, while meditating, diligent, keen, and resolute, I perceived limited light and saw limited forms. I perceived limitless light and saw limitless forms. This went on for a whole night, a whole day, even a whole night and day. I thought, what is the cause? What is the reason for this? It occurred to me, when my samadhi is limited, then my vision is limited. And with limited vision, I perceive a limited light and see limited forms. But when my immersion is limitless, then my vision is limitless. And with limitless vision, I perceive limitless lights and see limitless forms. And this goes on for a whole night, a whole day, and a whole night and day. So this is just the depth of the samadhi. And in the suttas you can see this in certain places where they talk about the samadhi having a certain size. It's like you place your mind on a certain area. But ideally you want the kind of the appamana samadhi, the unlimited samadhi is what we were trying to reach, where there is no limits in the mind. And this happens especially when you do things like the Brahma Viharas, when the idea of the Brahma Vihara is not to limit the metta or the compassion to certain people, but it to be unlimited, unbounded. And this is kind of the ideal here of the samadhi as well, the limitlessness of the samadhi. After understanding that doubt, loss of focus, dullness and drowsiness, terror, excitement, discomfort, excessive energy, overly lax energy, longing, perception of diversity, and excessive concentration of forms are corruptions of mind, I had given them up. I thought, I've given up my mental corruptions. All the corruptions are gone. What happens then? Now let me develop samadhi in 3 ways. I develop samadhi while placing the mind and keeping it connected, savitaka, savichara. Without placing the mind, avitaka, but keeping it connected, savichara. Without placing the mind and or keeping it connected, avitaka, avichara. With rapture, piti, piti, sahagata perhaps. Oh, actually, it's all here in the Pali, I don't need to guess. Sapitika is the correct one. With rapture, without rapture would be nipitika, okay. With pleasure would be sata sahagata, all right. And then the last one is with equanimity, which is upeka sahagata. So these are basically just different ways of talking about the 5-fold expression of jhana, right? This is what this is an expression of. So basically the 4 jhana plus the 1.5 jhana, which is halfway between 1 and 2. This is what this is about. So only now do we come to the jhanas. Now are we coming to the very, very end of the path. After all of this. And so remember this when you think about the jhana states. There's 2 important lessons from this. And the first one is that the jhanas are extraordinarily profound. Even the Buddha, even the greatest arahants in the history of Buddhism had difficulties achieving these things. They had to practice again and again, learning to overcome the defilements of the mind. These are really, really profound things. Don't think you have a jhana just by sitting down and getting some lights in the mind, having a bit of piti. This is a big problem in the Buddhist world today. Jhana light, it is sometimes disparagingly called. I would never call it that. I just did. Okay. But you have to have a name for it, so we call it jhana light, and then jhana, kind of the real jhana. But these are very, very profound things, and this kind of sutta makes that very clear. So please don't overestimate yourself, because if you do overestimate yourself, only one result comes from that. You will never actually get to the end of the path, because you don't practice it fully. Yeah, that is the result of overestimating yourself. And so, very, very profound things. So don't come on the retreat and say, oh, when will I get jhana? When will I get jhana? That's completely the wrong question to ask. That's the second lesson from this. Yeah, be happy if you are doing well. Be happy if whatever is happening, and then allow these things to develop slowly and gradually by themselves in the right way. That is the second lesson for this. Then the Buddha says, when I had developed samadhi in this way, in these ways, the knowledge and vision arose in me. My freedom is unshakable. This is my last rebirth. That now there are no more future lives. That is what the Buddha said, satisfied when Anuruddha was happy with what the Buddha said. And so you can see here what happened to the vipassana. Where's the vipassana? Is it possible to be enlightened without vipassana? Surely not. Maybe the sutta has lost something. You think so? This is vipassana, right? This whole process of going through this, of contemplating the various states, of understanding the defilements of the mind, this is precisely what is explained in the Satipatthana Sutta. And the last one, the Dhammanupassana, they talk about understanding the 5 hindrances, the 7 factors of awakening. This is exactly this process you're looking at here. This is vipassana. This is samatha and vipassana going hand in hand all the way to the awakening experience. So it is part of this. We are used to thinking of vipassana in a certain way, as sitting down, closing your eyes, watching arising and passing away. But that's not really found so much in the suttas. This is the way you find things in the suttas, right? It is much more, you calm the mind, then you reflect on your experience. You calm the mind, you reflect on your experience. You don't just watch arising and passing so much according to the suttas. So that is the Upakkilesa Sutta for you. In brief, I have been going through it fairly fast now towards the end. It is such a marvelous sutta. It really deserves more time. Probably deserves 3 hours rather than 2, but we have spent a couple of hours on it, which is kind of nice. But I also want to get to the very last sutta. And just to, very, very briefly, because it has a very nice simile in it, which I want to just take the opportunity to mention. So this is called the Nagara Sutta. Nagara Sutta is the city. And this is really about dependent origination, but it has a beautiful simile in it, which I think is really kind of inspiring, and kind of, I'll leave you with that for this retreat, because it's kind of, hopefully it will keep you, help you to kind of move, help you to find some inspiration in your practice. Let's have a quick look at this. So at Savatthi, mendicants, before my awakening, right? Again, before my awakening, when I was still unawakened, but intent on awakening, I thought, alas, this world has fallen into trouble. It is born, grows old, dies, passes away, and is reborn. Yet it doesn't understand how to escape from this suffering, from old age and death. Oh, when will an escape be found from this suffering, from old age and death? Then it occurred to me, when what exists is their old age and death. What is the condition for old age and death? Then, through proper attention, yoniso manasikara, I comprehended with wisdom, when rebirth exists, there is old age and death. Rebirth is a condition for old age and death. This is a typical way the Buddha deconstructs his experience, through causes. Then it occurred to me, when what doesn't exist, is there no old age and death? When what ceases, do old age and death cease? Then, through proper attention, I comprehended with wisdom. When rebirth doesn't exist, there is no old age and death. When rebirth ceases, old age and death cease. And then, of course, the Buddha carries on, and this is only a short extract of a much larger sutta, and it goes back from rebirth. The cause of rebirth is existence. The cause of existence is upadana, which is taking up, or attachment. The cause of attachment, taking up, is craving. Going back all the way. How far does it go back in the sutta? To vijnana, I think, to consciousness, and it stops there. Vijnana and namarupa. So he goes through this whole thing, and then comes the simile here. Suppose a person was walking through a forest. They would see an ancient path, an ancient route, traveled by humans in the past. Following it along, they would see an ancient city, an ancient capital inhabited by humans in the past. It was lovely, completed with parks, groves, lotus ponds, and embankments. Then that person would inform a king or the minister, "Please, sir, you should know this. While walking through a forest, I saw an ancient path, an ancient route traveled by humans in the past. Following it along, I saw an ancient city, an ancient capital inhabited by humans in the past. It was lovely, complete with parks, groves, lotus ponds, and embankments. Sir, you should rebuild that city." Then that king or the minister would have that city rebuilt. And after some time, that city was successful and prosperous, full of people, attained to growth and expansion. In the same way, I saw an ancient path, an ancient route, traveled by fully awakened Buddhas in the past. And of course, that ancient path, ancient route, traveled by the Buddhas in the past, well, what is that ancient path, that ancient road traveled by the fully awakened Buddhas in the past? It is simply this Noble Eightfold Path. That is right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right stillness, right samadhi. This is that ancient path, the ancient road traveled by the fully awakened Buddhas in the past. So we have come across this path taught by the Buddha. And if we travel on this path, it's like we are making our way through the forest. We have finally found this beautiful path. And if we practice this path in the right way, there is this amazing adventure ahead of us. This is like an adventure, right? You find an ancient city in the jungle somewhere. I don't know if you have ever been walking in the forest. When I was a child, we lived close to the forest, and I used to go into the forest, and I would find the little kind of rocks and little kind of holes in the ground, and I would crawl through them, and I would explore the forest. It's like an adventure for the child, to live in the forest like that. And then when I grew older, I used to go skiing in the forest and all of these kind of things. And this is like an adventure. This is the greatest adventure we can do as human beings, the adventure of the Noble Eightfold Path, discovering something truly extraordinary and amazing. It's an adventure of the lifetime, moving to the greatest meaning that a human being can ever experience. That is what this path is about. There's nothing more exciting, nothing more interesting than this inner journey that we are embarking upon. This is what this is about. And this is extraordinary. This is what we find as Buddhists. People think that Buddhists are boring people, right? But we have this most amazing thing kind of right here at our feet, lying, waiting for us to take part in this journey and discovering these things. It's extraordinary. It's exciting. It is an adventure. It is meaning. It is happiness. It's everything packed into one. That is what the Buddha is giving us. So remember what we are dealing with here. It is something really out of the ordinary, something extraordinary and exceptional. It is the greatest gift that anyone can give anyone else. What the Buddha gave us, what he bequeathed to us through his own practice, through his compassion, through his teaching activity. This is what this is about. Following it along, I directly knew old age and death, the origin, the cessation, and the practice that lead to the cessation. Following it along, I directly knew rebirth, continued existence, grasping, craving, feeling, contact, the six sense fields, name and form, consciousness. Following it along, I directly knew choices, sankhara, their origin, the cessation, and the practice that leads to their cessation. Having directly known this, I told the monks, the nuns, the laymen, and the laywomen, everyone. And that is how the spiritual life has become successful and prosperous, extensive, popular, widespread, and well proclaimed wherever there are gods and humans. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, so there you are, everyone. So now I am going to invite Tina to take charge again with some more final questions and answers. So, Venerable, would you like to come up again? And we can share the last session here.
Just want to first start by saying thank you so much, Ajahn Brahmali, for going through these suttas in such a comprehensive, but very practical way as well. So thank you for sharing these last 2 days. We do have a number of questions. Perhaps the first one we can start with relates specifically to nimitta, noting that that was what was referred to in the last sutta. So dear Ajahn, what is the blue, green, yellow and white colour nimitta mean?
Would you like to reply, Venerable? Yeah.
Nimitta is actually just a perception that you create from your mind. It's a reflection of your mind. So the color is just whatever you create. So it doesn't really mean anything as far as I understand.
Okay, Ajahn Brahmali, I think you dittoed that answer.
Yeah, happy about it.
Fantastic. Okay. Now, some other questions that were asked earlier. First one, dear Venerables, when I look at the cycle of rebirth, re-old age, re-ailment and re-death, it feels like this is an elaborate test designed by someone or some force for us to retake over and over again until we pass. Yeah. Do we have an explanation for this? Even though it might be irrelevant to my practice, this question still resurfaces in my mind from time to time. How can I deal with this?
Do we have an explanation for why it goes on? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and is it just a test that we have to pass? You know, sometimes people say if we don't learn the lessons in one life, we have to come back again. And
yeah. Me? Okay. So is it not a test that we have to pass, unfortunately? Yeah. So we made us keep on taking it again and again and again without end. And that is kind of the problem. And it's a test we should pass, however. That is the point. We should pass it, because if we don't pass it, we're going to suffer. So it's not really, it's kind of up to us what we make out of it. But if we see it as a test, it's kind of, seeing it as a test is kind of a skillful means. Because when you see it as a test, it means that you're looking for a solution. You're looking for an outcome. So I would say that that way of looking at things is almost like a skillful way of trying to find the way out. So the reason we haven't got out of this yet is, if you like, you can phrase it that way if you want to, that we haven't passed the test yet. And because we haven't passed the test, it means that we are still craving. And because we're craving, we're continuously creating more rebirth, more life, more re-death, more re-old age, more re-sickness, more re-sorrow, more re-lamentation. And a bit of happiness in between as well, not to make it sound too negative. But so that is right. Yeah.
Cool.
Venerable, would you?
The question asks, what there's a beginning to this, or why is it there, or something like that?
No, just any explanation for this.
Explanation for this existing like this, like explanation for samsara.
I think it's about having to retake this test over and over again and needing to pass.
Okay, why about the ignorance sutta? Is that a good answer?
Okay, that's a nice answer, yeah.
Because even in the time of the Buddha actually also says in, I think, Anguttara Nikaya 1063.
61,
yeah?
isn't it?
61.
Two. You shared halfway.
Ignorance. He to ask the question, where, I mean, we know why we are in samsara is because of ignorance or delusion or avidya, right? This is what gives rise to craving, and that is what keeps us going with all these three things. But the Buddha asked the question, where was the beginning? Was there a beginning? Could a beginning point be found for the rising of avidya? And in the sutta, I think he went back 91 eons, and he's probably stopped there and said a beginning point cannot be found. He didn't say there is no beginning, but he said a beginning point couldn't be found, but there is a cause and condition why ignorance is there. So this is there because of causes and conditions. So it's quite nice because we have this idea of if there is an end, if it can be ended, there should be a beginning. And these are concepts that we strongly hold on to, and we can't think outside of that. But the Buddha says, a beginning as with respect to time cannot be found, but beginning as with conditions could be found, right? So and it's a long sutta. I don't know whether you want to hear about it. You can read about it. If I were to go very quickly, the cause and condition that gives rise to avidya or ignorance is the 5 hindrances. And then the causes and conditions, there is nutriment or conditions that gives rise to 5 hindrances. And that is the bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, and mental, the 3 misconducts. And then there is cause and condition giving rise to that. And it goes back and back and back all the way to association of the fools. It's quite a beautiful sutta, and Ajahn Brahmali does this in most of his retreats, and there are lots of Dhamma talks. I highly recommend you to hear the long version of it. And it's also kind of nice to understand why we are here and still here.
There's a nice simile as well in that sutta.
Yeah.
No, I've said it so many times before. This can be like for the next retreat, so people come back, right? Yeah, this is the kind of the hook. Yeah.
Another cliffhanger.
Another cliffhanger. That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you, Venerables. Next question. Venerable, recently our pet passed away. We organised a puja to pass merits. And the Bhante who conducted this said it's a good thing to do the puja, but according to the Buddha, animals cannot receive merits. He didn't quote a sutta. Could you please share if this is correct? And if so, what's the relevant sutta? I also find it contradicting because in the Metta Sutta, we radiate loving kindness to all beings in Metta. May you aspire your... It seemed like Bodhi, but yeah.
You don't know? Okay. The thing is that we cannot share merit with a being, an animal that is alive. Yeah, if the animal is there and alive, we can't share it, and it cannot actually receive the merits. The only beings that can receive merit that are in existence are the people in the Petalok, are the ghosts, the pretas. And this is actually said in a specific sutta called the Janusoni Sutta in the Anguttara 10's number 167 or something like that, where they specifically mention that only these pretas can receive merits. And one of the reasons why this comes up, that it is impossible, is because there is no sense of the antarabhava in Theravada Buddhism. The idea is that you have the Chuti Chitta. Chitta is an Abhidhamma concept of the last mind moment. And after the Chuti Chitta comes the Patisandhi Vijnana, the re-arising consciousness comes immediately following. So one life ends and next life arises straight away. But when you read the suttas, it seems quite clear that there is such a thing as an antarabhava, an intermediate existence between one life and the next one. And that is, when people talk about near-death experiences, that sort of thing, you can get an idea what these things might be. And I would say an animal, maybe, I don't know this is just a little bit speculative, but it's quite likely at least some animals also will go through this antarabhava. When they are released from the animal body, they exist more of a ghostly kind of existence, and at that point, yeah, I would think that they may very well be able to receive the merit, yeah, because they are around. And soon after we are dead, we are still attached to the people who are close to us for a pet that would be their owners or friends, right? And maybe they are actually waiting for us to make some merit for them, right? So, my dear dog, I'm doing this for you. It's a beautiful thing to do for your dog, right? I mean, dogs are beautiful companions for us. So can other animals can be that as well. Why should we not have a gratitude for that companionship? Yeah, and then do something beautiful for that dog or animal, whatever they might be. And even if it doesn't work out, one of the beautiful things about the sutta I just mentioned before, the Janusoni Sutta, Janusoni says to the Buddha, well, okay, so you can make merit for the departed in this way. But then he says to the Buddha, but what if I don't have any departed relatives in that realm? Yeah, and the Buddha says it is impossible that you should not have any departed relatives in that realm, because we had so many departed relatives that guarantee that someone is going to be there. So if you make merit for your dog and the dog can't receive it, someone else will receive it anyway. So you haven't lost, right? So make merit for your departed relatives. Include your dog within that, and someone is guaranteed to receive that. You are also making merit by doing that at the same time, yeah? This is what's called a win-win situation. Yeah, everyone wins. Kind of beautiful. That would be my recommendation.
Ajahn,
Yeah.
when the Buddha was in the Vana, the story about the elephant and the monkey looking after him, is it from the commentaries or is it in the suttas?
It is in the Vinaya Pitaka.
It is in the Vinaya Pitaka.
Yeah, but the monkey is not there. Only the elephant is there.
Only the
So
elephant
there's different versions of the story here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But in there, even though the animals are alive, they obviously reached some merit from looking after the Buddha, isn't it?
It doesn't say in that story. It is only in the story version that has the monkey in it. The monkey goes to heaven.
No, elephant also goes to heaven, two different heavens.
Not in the Vinaya Pitaka version.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Because we hear different stories when we listen.
Yeah.
So there is commentarial part and the Sutta Pitaka part, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, so uncertain. Yeah.
Great, amazing answers, and amazing also because I was just about to ask a question that's directly relevant to it. So, Venerable, can you please clarify, is there an in-between state of the Antara Bhava? Is it in between two lives according to Theravada tradition? I've heard that if a person has done good karma, they can decide where to be reborn, they can choose. I think not, but your thoughts are valued.
Yeah. Should I answer that one? Okay. So again, as I said before, it is in the Orthodox Theravada tradition is that there is no antarabhava, because the mind moment at death and the next mind moment re-arising straight away. And this is actually something that was debated as a well-known Abhidhamma book called the Kata Vattu, which means like the points of controversy is how it has been translated. Kata means talk, Vattu is like base, is the foundation for talk or discussion. And this book discusses controversial points, of the Dhamma. But the book is an ancient book, so these were controversial points that were relevant 2,200 years ago, right? Which is kind of amazing that we still have that. So this is one of the most interesting books for understanding a bit about Buddhist history. It talks about the various controversial points. And one of the controversial points is precisely the idea of the antarabhava. And Theravadins said, no, there's no antarabhava, but there were other schools that said, yes, there is antarabhava. And this is where we have to be careful. This is where the distinction between being a Theravada Buddhist and being a Buddha Buddhist, actually comes into being. And I prefer to think of myself, I'm actually a follower of the Buddha. That's kind of the primary thing. I don't not necessarily a Theravadan Buddhist. Theravadan Buddhist means that you take on board all the Theravada ideas. But what if there is a difference between what the Buddha taught and what the Theravadins teach? What should you follow? You should follow the Buddha, right? And so this I take to be an example of that, where the Theravadins have misinterpreted the word of the Buddha, and this other school of Buddhism probably has interpreted in the right way. This other school is called the Sautrantika. This was a debate between the Sautrantikas and the Theravadins. And Sautrantika is actually the sutra. Sutra is Sotra, right? Sautantrika is a Sutta school, and they rejected certain things that the Theravadins did not reject, like some of the Abhidhamma texts and etc., etc. And so I think, and then when you read the suttas, there are, to my mind, very clear instances that talk about antarabhava. Right? There's one sutta where the Buddha says, or the Buddha is asked the question, before when you have died, but before you are reborn, what sustains the consciousness? After you have died, but before you are reborn, what sustains the consciousness? Well, that seems to be talking about intermediate state, right? Something is existing in between. What sustains it? Well, that's craving, of course, because craving sustains everything. Yeah, and there are a number of suttas like this life, the next life, and what is in between. Yeah, idda loka. Hurangva, Idava Hurangva, Ubayena Antara, something like that, in between the two. And there's a number of passages that actually point in that direction. So I think that there is Antara Bhava. And when you hear about modern day near-death experiences, right, you can hear about these things many places. And I would really recommend you to read some of the books about near-death experiences. When the book Karunika gave me a book about a year ago called After, right, by a man called Bruce Grayson, who wrote this book. He's one of the leading researchers on near-death. Very interesting book, and it talks about some of the experience had by people, and he goes through the evidence and he asks what could the possible explanations be. Very interesting, and it really it adds some information that you don't get in the suttas. The suttas can sometimes be too dry, too technical. Okay, rebirth, death, but this adds an emotional aspect that sometimes you don't get in the suttas. So that can be very useful, and I would recommend you to do that to gain some insight. And it really strengthens the case, the feeling for rebirth significantly when you read some of these things. And when you read them, the standard way that things happen is that you kind of die. Yeah, you have a death experience, and then you find yourself, oops, what happened? Am I alive or dead? Yeah, some people are really surprised. They don't know whether they're dead or alive. This is kind of interesting, isn't it? Am I alive? And then they start to, like I said the other day, hey, Tina. Tina just continues working on her thing, right? She has no idea. How come you're not listening? Yeah. And of course, because you're dead, so she can't hear you. That's the reason. And so, and then they talk about a certain point. If you cross a certain threshold, you can't return, right? There is this whole feeling of a intermediate existence, this life, intermediate, and then the future life there. It seems to fit with the modern ideas. So I think that the Antarabhava, to me, makes actually good sense, and I think there is such a thing. And I think many scholars would actually agree with that.
I know.
Yeah. Okay, I think the one about where that talks about this life and the next life and in between, I think that's in the Samyutta Nikaya 44, which I think is the Gamani Samyutta. Is that right? I think it's the 44th Samyutta Sutta number 9 or something like that. That is where that one is.
I can say something.
Yeah, please.
Devaduta Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, 130, right? 129?
129. No, sorry. Devaduta is 130.
130, yeah. And that's a very nice sutta also because it's very similar to the modern day descriptions of near-death experience. A person who has done bad things has died, and then he meets up with the divine person, which the Buddha calls as King Yama, and there is a time where they have a conversation about, like, did you do this yourself, that, and so there is a time period where this conversation is happening before this person goes to hell, for example, become a hell being, which is its next life. So Antarabhava and what actually happens during that time is very nicely given there, and it's quite similar to what most people who have a near-death experience. Also, Majjhima 38, Mahatanha Sankaya Sutta has the Gandhabba, like, the stream of consciousness that is coming to the womb. So, it's kind of in a way as well.
Also, this one, exactly. The Gandhabba that is coming.
That's another one.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to look it up because it's just too difficult to do that on the fly. But there is a number of suttas.
Few good ones. Yeah.
And there's a book called The Selfless Mind by a man called Peter Harvey, and he has a whole chapter on the Antarabhava in that book, which is kind of interesting. He draws out all of these suttas. So you may be able to find that online, perhaps. The Selfless Mind by Peter Harvey. Yeah. That is not an argument. It can be a kind of existence, but it doesn't look like it because it's almost like your karma hasn't really taken hold yet. Yeah, it's like you're waiting for your karma. Sometimes you go and visit the hells a bit, you visit the heavens, and then you come. It's like then you have your life review, and then it's kind of your karma starts to take you somewhere. Yeah.
It's a short period of time. I also contemplated that, but with the near-death experience people's thing, it's very clear because they haven't given up this body, even though this body was dead for a couple of minutes. And then they had another existence, and then they come back to here. So it's kind of like they were holding on to kind of two things, and they were sorting out their karma and all of that. So it's kind of interesting. So it's a short period, probably not a very long one, but there is a period. And death is not momentary, right? That is a process. It takes a period of time. So, yeah. Dead. Near-death experience, they're dead. But clinically dead. Clinically dead. EEG and ECG is flat. That's how they say. So they're dead. Yeah.
It revivable.
Yeah. Revivable,
but dead perhaps.
Yeah. Never mind. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
What does it mean to be dead, right? I mean, it is a process. At what point are you? There is certainly some such a thing as reversible and irreversible death, you could argue maybe. Yeah. But, yeah.
Actually, can I share something that Bhante Sujata said recently? It was really such a nice simile to understand this process. This is like, it's very common in the suttas. It's mentioned like a house, like, this body is referred to as a house. And when people who have Dibba Chakku, that is the divine eye, can see a being departing from this and entering the other. The Buddha says it's like you leave one house and go and enter the next house. But it is very similar to the process of when we buy a house. Like when we have bought another house and vacating it, from which point do you say that you have left this and bought the other one? Was it the time that you went to see it, signed the contract, paid for it, took your things in, slept the first night? It is a process, So from which point do you say you have given this up and gone into that? So it's kind of nice to think about death is also like that. There can be other views, but this is probably not a time to have a long argument about it. We can have a discussion later. Yeah.
Okay, the next question relates to the other spectrum, which is secular Buddhism. So yesterday we mentioned about secular Buddhism, and I think there was a comment about how, well, if there's no rebirth in that, then it's probably not Buddhism. So anyway, the question is this: is secular Buddhism better than no Buddhism? Thank you for your teaching.
Yeah, I think it is, because sometimes secular Buddhists become Buddhists after a while. Yeah, so it's like a stepping stone. Yeah, it's like a stepping stone. So it's not bad. We should be careful with being too disparaging, because people do things. Yeah, they can be good secular Buddhists. They can do the right thing. They can live in the right way. They can evolve over time, and they can become something. And so they may change their views over time. So it is not a bad thing. But it is, I think, too much emphasis on too much hubris about modernity and about our ideas of the world, as if they are somehow superior to the ideas of the Buddha, and that we can throw out the wisdom of the Buddha because our ideas are somehow better. It's a little bit like that, and that is kind of, to me, the downside of these things. So there are many ways of coming to Buddhism, many ways of coming to the Dhamma, and very often we're not going to take all the ideas of Buddhism on board, and that's okay. And then gradually, by listening to the word of the Buddha, improving our confidence, then down the track we may come to accept the idea of rebirth. So yes, I think it is.
Wonderful, thank you. Next question. Have you personally perceived limitless light and limitless forms?
Venerable.
And these things that we can't discuss with the lay people, we have rules about this.
I thought that may be the case, but I'm just doing my job. Okay, next question. Actually, the next one, there's two questions. I feel quite content now with my life. Does it mean I have wrong view? And also, how do we balance the worldly and the spiritual life? So that's the first question.
The contentment is wrong view? You're content?
Well, the person feels content now.
Yeah,
Does that mean they have wrong view?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Please. Again, it's about how you are content, and how content you are. If this person really is content, they are probably an arahant already. Yeah, that's kind of the answer there. So if it is real contentment, an arahant. Otherwise, they are not as content as they think they are here. So this is kind of part of the problem. Yeah, you are content, and then down the track comes some serious suffering, and then you really suffer, and you have some real problems. So how content are you? Have you overcome all suffering? What are the potential for the future? You have to look at these things in the broad brushed strokes, whatever it is called in English. And you have to remember rebirth into this, what's going to happen in your next life. All of these things have to be taken into account. And then you have to ask yourself, what does all of this mean? What does all of this right view mean for my life right now? And then you can decide. But contentment, generally speaking, is good, yeah? Because if you are content, it means that your meditation is likely to be more profound, yeah? And then you bring some joy and happiness into that contentment, and then you you actually become even more content based on contentment. So use that contentment for your benefit on the spiritual path, and then it's going to be a powerful force for good as a consequence. What was the other part of the question, Tina?
And how do we balance the worldly and spiritual life?
Yeah, you don't balance it. You just everything becomes spiritual. Yeah, that's kind of the point. No balance, just full on. Yeah, no holding back. Yeah.
You also say in your book, make your worldly life a support for your spiritual life, not the other way around. Because most people, their priority is worldly life and spiritual on the side. But if you turn it around, that's quite powerful. Yeah. More explanations in the book.
Salesperson.
So, Venerables, would you say that sometimes we use the Dhamma or Buddha's practice in order to make this life better, but maybe a better way to see it is actually to use this life for our Dhamma practice instead?
Exactly. Yeah. If you use Dhamma practice to make this life better, then you are kind of missing out a little bit what this whole thing is about. Yeah, I want to kind of have a good life, but I'm going to kind of watch the breath so as to become a bit more peaceful during my ordinary life. Exactly as I say, it's really the other way around. It's the spiritual practice that actually is everything. Yeah, and our ordinary life, as you say, should be used to further our spiritual practice. So we make everything spiritual, and that's actually it's a beautiful way of living, right? Because it means that not only does your spiritual life improve as a consequence, but your ordinary life also becomes better if you imbue it with spiritual qualities. So how we work with people, how we deal with our family members, how we deal with our colleagues, everything becomes about kindness, compassion, care, generosity, peace, all of these beautiful qualities. Yeah, wow, how fortunate I am to have such spiritual friends in my life. Yeah, that becomes your life, and then the whole thing starts to happen. Yeah.
So the same person's second question is this: the Dhamma is so simple and practical, yet it's so difficult and seems so distant in order to fully understand and get liberation. In terms of success record, how many people who we know that have been have been successful in the Dhamma? Smiley face.
Wow.
You have been on the path longer.
I know incredibly many people who've been successful in the Dhamma. So many, I probably can't even count them. That's how many. Because what does it mean to be successful in the Dhamma? Yeah, it means that you're practicing these teachings, you're getting some benefit from the teachings. Already you have been successful in the Dhamma. The Dhamma is not about reaching particular states. Well, it is Ultimately, it is about that. But Dhamma is about improving. And if you keep on improving, you will eventually reach everything on the Buddhist path. So the right question to ask is always, am I improving? Is the bad qualities going down, the good qualities going up? If that is the case, you're on the track, you are successful, and everything is heading in the right direction. If you're asking how many arahants there are in the world, then that is an impossible question to answer, unfortunately. All we should look for is whether we are improving or not.
Now, we do have limited time, so I apologise if we don't get to your question. The next question is this. Venerables, if someone experiences the 4 jhanas, is it to be assumed that knowledge and liberation will follow effortlessly?
For me?
It says, thank you, Ajahn.
Okay, that's an easy question. That's a nice one. I like that one. Pretty much, it's pretty much effortlessly. Because one of the things that people often get wrong is this idea that jhanas are just samadhi, it's just samatha. There's no insight that comes with that. But that is not right. The ability to attain something like the 4th jhana, even the 1st jhana, this enormous amount of insight is required to enable you to even attain these qualities. Because why? Because what is insight anyway? Well, insight is really about abandoning things. It is measured in the suttas. The amount of insight you have is measured in how much you have abandoned. And the deeper your jhana state, the more you have abandoned. So you have more insight by definition. The full abandoning of everything, that's what enlightenment is. By abandoning, we mean giving up attachment and craving. That's what abandoning means in this case. So you have already abandoned enormous amounts. All that remains when you come to the 4th jhana is a tiny sliver of the 5 aggregates that remains. And that tiny sliver is this experience of equanimity in the 4th jhana. That's all that remains of all the 5 khandhas. There's almost nothing left, right? So the distance between you and awakening when you get to the 4th jhana is tiny. All the difficult stuff has been done. You have seen how this progress, you have seen how abandoning things gradually how that functions. And that last thing is then super duper easy. Well, maybe that's an exaggeration. It is relatively small compared to all the things you have abandoned already. So the answer is pretty much it's automatic when you get to the 4th jhana. And that is why there is nothing about vipassana there. It doesn't say anything about what you do when you come out of the 4th jhana. Actually, it's not quite true. There are a few suttas that do talk about that. But generally speaking, it is automatic when that happens, provided one thing is in place, the right view at the beginning of the path. It has to have a right view with it. Otherwise, you will take the 4th jhana as some kind of eternal existence or whatever.
Thank you.
And in the suttas it says, right, samadhi paccaya yatha bhuta jnana, that's all the time.
All the time.
But also why I want to add, because sometimes why people ask this question is that word dhyana or jhana existed in pre-Buddhist as well, like in Brahmanical terms also they use this term. But there is a big difference. The mind states could be quite close, but there is a difference, and that is exactly the thing, because what's the difference is right view isn't there. So it is really important for us to understand what is samma samadhi, and in the suttas it is described as samma samadhi is the stillness of the mind that is achieved based on the other 7 factors, all the 7 factors. Not just following like a technique and getting your mind very, very strong, and people can even develop psychic abilities and get into very powerful mind states, which some people might call as jhanas. But samma samadhi is different, and this is what it is.
Do you have any nice stories on psychic abilities?
No.
No? It would be nice to hear. I haven't really heard you mention that before. It would be... No, just wondering here, because sometimes, some nice stories is nice. You have any nice stories about psychic abilities? No? Okay. No? All right.
Maybe for next time. That's another hook then. Okay. Perhaps the last question for today before we wrap up. So, dear Venerables, I would like to learn more about the suttas. Where do I start? What is the methodical way? Since sometimes I read suttas, I get lost without context and I get confused.
Okay, time for advertising the book.
Thought that's where it was heading.
reasons is that it's actually a very simple book, but it starts and it has sutta references because it's really hard to give one way of going through it, but it's very practical. For example, Ajahn Brahmali's book, for example, is one thing. That's not the only thing, but you can relate to, and then you can have some sutta references. So when you have a few, then you can just work your way through it. You can search for it. But there is also Bhikkhu Bodhi's Words of the Buddha. It's quite a nice book, which has all the things in a much more nice order as well. But the thing is, sometimes, because it's quite a lot of suttas, it might be, for some people, difficult to understand as well. So it depends on what you feel like. You can try some of these books out. Those are two things, but you might...
What about coming on the sutta retreats?
Yes, exactly. Coming on sutta retreats, and there are also sutta retreats by both Ajahn Brahmali, Bhante Sujato online. So these are quite nice ones. They have done really nice workshops through BSWA as well as maybe with other things as well. I only know the BSWA ones on Noble Eightfold Path, Dependent Origination, many workshops on Karma and Rebirth. So these are always very good places because then you get yourself hooked into some suttas, and then from there you can actually work your way up.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things one of the reasons I got interest in the suttas was because when I started out at Bodhinyana Monastery, Ajahn Brahm was doing sutta readings. And I got really inspired when I saw how he kind of wove everything together. In those days, he was really into the suttas. It was in the kind of mid to early 90s. He was really into the suttas. And he wove it all together in a beautiful way. And he used one sutta to kind of bring light to another sutta. And it was just really powerful. And I got really inspired by that. And it doesn't take that much listening to suttas like that, and you start to get the hang of it yourself, how to do this. So come to a few sutta retreats, listen to a few sutta readings by someone who's knowledgeable about the suttas. Doesn't take that long before you start to understand how it all kind of comes together, yeah? And then you become independent and you have the ability to do these things for yourself.
Also, Ajahn Brahm has been doing Word of the Buddha, his version. So it's a different one, same name. And that's also very nice because he starts also from the beginning and going through it. And that's also available on BSW website.
I think it is available on, a number of places actually. Yeah.
And for those who are watching this online, we'll pop that link into the description below as well, because we do have a link for that for you to download. And of course, there's also Sutta Central. So we'll also put that description in the link below as well. And of course, there's the Sutta Central Publications book launch that's happening next Saturday for anyone who would like to join. So that was mentioned earlier by Ajahn Brahmali, one of the most important events that's going to happen in...
I would say it is the most important event in Australian history.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
The best advertising ever, right? So please join 9th of December, 2 to 4 p.m. at the State Library, New South Wales, and you can get your tickets online.
Is it open for everyone, Deepika? Is it? Yeah? It's filling up, yeah? Yeah. 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 Okay.
Okay, so for those online who didn't hear that, so the registrations are still open, but they are booking up. So please get your tickets as soon as possible. I'm going to pop the link into the chat. And so now where we're going to head to, someone's just asked, is there sutta translated by Ajahn Brahmali?
I have translated the Vinaya Pitaka, which I wouldn't recommend. It's really it's all about all the bad monks and the bad nuns and what they did. It's kind of really depressing when you read that. But it gives a nice balance sometimes, that's all. But anyway, so no, the answer is not so many. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ajahn. So now we'll do the closings. And then after that, we do have some announcements from the organisers and, of course, photo, which is very important. So I'll invite the Venerables now for their closing.
Did Uncle Lal want to speak now or when? Afterwards? So I was...
No, please. Yeah, we can do it. What do you want to do? Like a blessing or something? Oh, that's right. The meditation. Yeah, please, you do that because you did very well last time.
Request by I don't know who, Tina mentioned this, to do a very short gratitude meditation. Is that good? Good idea?
Yeah.
Very short only, and it's not like a stillness meditation. What I will do is maybe get you to just sit, relax, close your eyes, and I will say a few things, and you can bring up gratitude as you listen. And after that, we'll share merits and maybe give a blessing chant. Yeah? All right. Okay, so if you're ready, just sit in a nice, comfortable way and relax your body and relax your mind and become present to just hearing what I'm going to be saying, just in a way. So we have been for 2 days listening to these beautiful suttas by the Buddha. And as we listen to them, as we get inspired by these teachings, we feel like, wow, it's so nice that the Buddha was here, and in the world and has offered these beautiful teachings to me. I have received a beautiful gift from him. What can I do in return? Right? So you have this idea of gratitude towards the Buddha and you want to do something in return. But of course, the Buddha is not alive. We know he has ended his samsaric journey. But a beautiful way that we can pay our respects, not only to the Buddha, but also to our teachers, like Ajahn Brahmali, who's here, who's been saying and explaining the word of the Buddha, and all of your many teachers who has helped you throughout this spiritual path. The best way that we can express our gratitude is by practicing the path. And this is what we have been doing in the past 2 days. We have taken precepts, both 5 precepts or 8 precepts. We have tried to keep our precepts as well as to our best ability. We have listened to beautiful Dhamma discourses, and also we have meditated. So these are all beautiful ways that we have been doing our practice. So we have not been heedless, we have been heedful. So this is what the Buddha said, appamadena sampadetabbang, right? Vaya dhamma sankara, appamadena sampadetabbang was his last words. So this weekend, we have lived our day, our life quite well. So you can bring up this gratitude, a sense of joy, a sense of fulfillment, of living our life well. And allow that beautiful feeling starting from your chest or your heart area, and for it to grow, and even into a light you can imagine, and allow it to just spread all across, starting from this room, going far and wide, with that sense of appreciation, fulfillment, joy. And recollecting how lucky, how fortunate we are to be born at a time these beautiful teachings are available to us. How lucky we are to have come across these things. There could be people right now walking outside who has not heard these beautiful teachings, these aspects of wisdom that brings us peace, brings us joy and calm into our mind. So instead of complaining about life, which we normally do, this is a big one where we can actually appreciate, be happy, be grateful for the beautiful gifts we have received in our life, the beautiful opportunities that we have. You can also have a sense of gratitude for all the many people who have supported this. These 2 days, people came all the way and offered us all a magnificent lunch, free of charge, right? These were things that we received free of charge. The venue, we didn't have to pay anything. The teachings are offered for free. And all the other people organizing everything, setting up, preparing, all of these things that go behind. Many hands have helped. And they have all been offered to us free of charge. So you can really bring up that beautiful sense of gratitude. With that comes a lot of joy. And we can spread it all around. And really thank all the beings, all the people who have supported us from the starting point up until now in our spiritual journey. And as we have this beautiful joy and happiness and gratitude in our heart, let's share these merits also with the devas and then also with our departed relatives. And also with our parents, because we are always grateful to our parents. Without them, we wouldn't be here, and the incredible support they have given. So with your parents, whether they're alive or dead, we can still share merits with them as well. So bring anybody or any being that you wish to share merits with into the forefront of your mind, and let's recite the gathas in Pali. Akasata ca bhummata devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu loka sasanang. Akasata ca bhummata devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu desanang. Akasata ca bhummata devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu mam paranti ettavata ca mehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca ammehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta numodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca ammehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Idam me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idam me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idam me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Will all the venerables join to do the Chula Chakkamangalavala?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, good idea.
Sabba
Buddhanubhavena sabba dhamma nubhavena sabba sangha nubhavena buddharatana dhammaratana sangharatana tenang ratananga nubhavena chaturasitisa sadhamma kanda nubhavena pitakataya nubhavena jinnasavaka nubhavena
sabete roga sabete bhaya sabete antaraya sabete upadava sabete dunimita sabete avamangala vinasantu ayuvadako dhanavadako
Devadako, Yasavadako, Balavadako, Vanavadako, Sukhavadako, Hotu Sabada, Dukaroga Payavera, Sukasa Tuchupadava, Anekantaraya, Pevinajantu Tejasa, Jaya Sededanang Labang, Sutip Bhagyang Sukhang Balang, Siriyayuchavano, Chajigang Bundi, Jaya Sava Satava Sachayu, Chajiva Sindi, Bhavantu Te. Okay, everyone. So I will pass it on to Lal in a second, who was the kind organizer of this retreat. I would just like to say just a couple of very last words. Is that okay? Am I allowed to do that? Yeah? Okay, thank you. So just to wish you all the very best in your practice and best of luck with everything. And keep on reminding yourself of the Dhamma. Come back to these beautiful teachings. Allow them to brainwash you. Get inspired. Keep on doing these things. The most important thing, the most difficult thing with all the Dhamma is to remember these teachings, not to forget them in daily life. And the way to remember them is to come back to them, listening to good Dhamma talks. Where do we get good Dhamma talks? We get them in the suttas. Yeah, this is the suttas right here. This is one version of the suttas. You get them from good monastics who know how to present the sutta as well. People like Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, people like Bhante Sujato, people like Ajahn Brahmali, sometimes myself, and also Venerable Karunika. I've known Venerable Karunika for maybe 20 years. Remember that she has a very, very good understanding of the suttas. And it's wonderful that we now have a really good, well-established Bhikkhuni monastery right here in Sydney here. And so please make use of that resource. Because the resource is there. And of course, it is for mutual benefit of everyone. I just wanted to say that because sometimes it's hard to know who are the really good teachers, but that is my view, that here you have a very good resource for the Sydney area. So thank you very much, and best of luck to everyone, and I'll pass it on to Lal.
Thank you so much. While Lal's coming up, I just want to say there's a lot of thank yous online, lots of really positive feedback. I think one of my favourite one is, sadhu, 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 thank you for the brainwashing session.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I must actually show our gratitude to Ajahn for accepting our invitation and coming to Sydney and giving us this wonderful weekend of Sutta retreat. Actually, it was a opportunistic invitation because when I heard that Ajahn is coming to Sydney on Deepika's invitation for Sutta Central activities, so I invited and Ajahn has accepted. And I thank Deepika for giving us that opportunity as well. And also I thank Venerable Karunika for sort of coordinating all the communication work with Ajahn for this retreat. And it was a wonderful opportunity for us being able to hold this retreat. And I also thank Tina, Zen, and Michael for managing all the Zoom communication, video, and things like that, and also doing the MC work. I'm very thankful to Rumi because she sponsored the hiring of the hall, and I'm thankful to the Blacktown City Council for giving us this opportunity. And also, I thank both our dana providers for both 2 days. Saturday was Siran, Rangika, and family and friends, Satika and them. Today it was Mohana, Ruan, and friends. I think it was they very happily undertook to provide us with dana. And also I must thank Dilini and Janit for managing the tea stand. You sort of it came automatically, so that's okay. Yeah, and also I thank all volunteers who came in the morning to set up the hall, because we had to do the setting up the hall both days, because yesterday night there was some other party involved. And also I thank Venerables for attending this retreat, and also thank all of you for attending the retreat, and much merit for that. And I would like to take this opportunity to invite Ajahn again for another retreat next year. Hopefully, humbly I invite you to accept that. We will probably communicate through Venerable Karunika. Thank you very much. And I think Tina is organizing a photo shoot up. So we might move some of the stuff from the stage, so that preparing the stage. In the meantime, I would also request you to, whoever can stay back, please help us to clean this hall up, and put everything away and take whatever our stuff outside, because we need to close this one by 6 o'clock, hand over the... Thank you very much.
Sadhu, 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 sadhu. Very good.
Okay, so thank you everyone so much for joining. What an amazing 2 days, huh? Yeah? And big thanks again to our venerables, particularly Ajahn Brahmali, for sharing their wisdom and their teachings. Thank you, Ayya Karunika, for joining the panels as well. Thank you to all the organisers. We're going to say goodbye and good night to everyone, especially those online. And if you want to watch this again, because it's just so many Dharma gems, it will be on our YouTube channel, on Metta Centre's YouTube channel, not long after this event. Thank you all and good night.
Thank you very much. We like to take this opportunity to worship Sangha in our traditional Sri Lankan way. Silavantang gunavantang punyakketang anuttara dullabena mayaladdang pasitung vanditung varang Sariputta-diteranang agatang patipatiya saddha sila dayavasang buddha puttang namamaham sasu.